Hello everyone, welcome to or back to my channel if you're new. My name is Emmy and today I'm going to be reviewing the Lime Crime Venus Vivids palette. Now this palette came out not a month ago but like maybe 2-3 weeks ago. I had a really hard time ordering this. Basically I had to contact customer service because my browser wasn't working when I tried to order this, so like it would load and never order, so it took me a while to get it. I do have it now. This is what the shades look like. I'll insert my swatches like I did last time for the, was it the XL2 that I reviewed last time? I honestly have no idea. I'm so bad at making videos, I'm so sorry. So I do have swatches of these. This is a really nice palette. I'll just get right into it and say this is a really nice palette. I like the colors in here, as you can see by my swatch comparisons, which I will do after this part. These are unique shades to Lime Crime's whole line as far as their Venus palettes and other palettes, because I did swatch the Plushies palettes as well. The only palettes by Lime Crime I don't own right now are the pocket candy ones, but I don't think, like looking at pictures of those, that those really have any dips in here to begin with, and also I heard the quality of those wasn't that great. I do have the sugar plum one, but nothing really matched, so I didn't bother swatching that one. But yeah, so let's just get into a couple pros and cons. One of the main things I know people were complaining about this palette was that Luxe right here and Happy Place right here are really similar, and I think I agree to an extent, although between filming my initial swatches of this palette and using it for the past couple weeks, however long I've had this thing, I actually do think these are a little bit different. I'll give you a couple swatches right now just to show you. So Luxe I have on my pointer finger, and I got Happy Place on the middle finger here, so I'll just swatch it on my left hand. So there's Luxe on top, and Happy Place is on bottom. Please don't slide off my lap. So when you look at these swatches, like I don't know if you can tell just based on this angle alone, you know, and obviously you can see in my swatch comparisons, I think Happy Place is just a little bit more green. Just a tiny bit, because look, you can see next to Limelight right there, it's got a little bit of a green cast. If you cover this up, they look really similar, but I still believe it has a little bit of green to it. It's not enough for me to justify, like, if these were in different palettes and you wanted one yellow over the other. I don't think these are so different that you would need both palettes. However, the fact that they're in one palette, I'm not too mad about it, because I found myself, when I was doing the tutorial parts, I found myself using them for different purposes. So with that being said, I don't think these are wildly different, but I also don't think that they're identical. So that's one thing that I want to get out of the way, is I know a lot of people were upset about those two shades being so similar. And I think, you know, why I just went over it, but you know what I mean. Okay, and then another thing I wanted to talk about was the mattes in this palette. So some of the mattes in this palette are really soft, like Betty and Limelight. These two right here, the blue and the green, are really nice. They perform super well. They've got a lot of pigment to them. But these shades Starburst and Sassy are a little bit less pigmented, and I'm not going to sit here and try to justify it and say, oh, they're sheer shades, you know, because I don't really think, I mean, for mattes, do you really want them to be sheer? Because I know some people like sheer shimmers, but I don't know about sheer mattes, if that's really something anybody is super into, so I don't think that's really the purpose. They are buildable. You saw, if you watched my swatch comparisons, well, no, I was going to put that after this part, so no, you wouldn't have watched that already, but you'll see that I was able to build them up. I found that they performed well on the eyes. I just don't think that those two shades are particularly soft or wildly pigmented, but I do like them. Let's talk about some shades that I'm super into. So Super Bloom right here, this nice orange, and Flutter are both super metallic shades. I keep saying super, I'm so sorry. I'm not going to give you swatches because that's later in the video, you'll see it anyways, but Flutter is beautiful when foiled. It's nice on its own, but when you foil this shade, oh my lord Jeebus, it's beautiful. I'm actually wearing it on my eyes today, and I did blend it out a little bit, so it's not really that shiny, but I do really like that color. And then Super Bloom is this absolutely gorgeous, like, pumpkin yellow, and like, hold on, I'll show you what color it looks like. It's like this pumpkin right here. He's my favorite. But this shade looks just like that. Basically, there is no difference between them. But no, in all seriousness, that shade is really nice. So the thing about Super Bloom is that it's not a very interesting shade, I guess, when you look at it to begin with. I saw it and I was like, okay, cool, there's an orange. It's like a neon orange. I was like, that's cool. There's actually a really nice glitter in this, and you obviously probably can't tell. I'm wearing it on my lower lash line today, and you'll see it in the tutorial as well, so don't worry about that. But this one has a beautiful kind of like yellow glitter, and it just makes all my Halloween dreams come true. I mean, look at how I'm dressed right now. Like, clearly, this orange shade matches the whole Halloween aesthetic, and I'm so here for it. So I really, really enjoy that. As far as like, do you need this palette? I don't think you really necessarily need it, especially if you're not somebody who wears vivid colors every single day, which is me, but unfortunately I'm a filthy completionist when it comes to the Venus palettes and Lime Crime's kind of, I guess, shadow range and like face palettes and stuff, so I did want to get it just to have it and to review because I was curious. But I think if you have the birthday palette, the shades in there are close enough. You don't need both. If you're on the fence about this, I think it's beautiful, but you don't need to pick them both up unless you're somebody who collects them. As far as like general formula and stuff, I do think this is really nice. I gotta say, I do prefer the birthday palette formula just a little bit more because all the shades in there are really soft, and the fact that I have to build those two shades in this one makes me not frustrated, but like it kind of throws me off for this one. Like, I would rather use the birthday palette if, you know, the color story was relatively the same. So like if I was going for a pink look, I would probably choose the birthday palette over this one, not gonna lie, just because there's more options and also like they just blend better. That being said, this one is significantly less glittery than the birthday palette. So if you're somebody who likes vivid brights and you don't like glitter, I think this is gonna be your best option because the only glittery shades in here are Happy Place, Super Bloom, and Luxe, and that's 3 out of 8. So that's not even half that have glitter in them. And for some of them, it's like not even as noticeable, like the Luxe shade. The glitter is so fine, like there's no chunky glitter in this palette. It's all really fine. So if you don't like glitter, I would say go for the Vivid palette. And that's about it on my thoughts. I ordered the Immortalis this morning the second it came out. I mean, not second, like, because I was asleep. Is that my cat? I thought I heard my cat. I'm sorry. I woke up this morning, one of the first things I did was order the Immortalis palette, so that review will be coming. Oh, hello, there he is! Oh my goodness, come here! Darling! Meow, come here, my baby. Come here, my baby. Okay, who came to say hello? Oh, he does not like being held. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, darling. I love you so much. I just wanted to share the love with the world. He's such a good boy. Anyways, back on track. I will be reviewing the Immortalis palette as soon as I have a chance to try it out, and hopefully things work out with shipping. I think this time actually it shipped the same day since I bought it this morning, so I should be getting it maybe later this week, early next week, and I'll start playing with it, and I will make a video. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this segment of the video. I'm going to insert my eye tutorials. I did 4 of them, I believe, as well as my swatches of this palette and the comparisons. So if you want to see that, stay tuned. If not, thank you for sticking around. I love making these videos. I wish I had more time. And thank you for watching. Bye! Alrighty guys, so today we're going to be doing swatch comparisons for the new Venus Vivid palette by Lime Crime. This is what the palette looks like. I already did swatches, as you can see. And these are the swatches for the palette. So, we're going to be going through shade by shade. I'm going to be showing like specific dupes that I think I can find in my other palettes. And these are all the palettes that I found dupes for in the collection. So we have the XL, the Venus 2 and 3, the birthday palette, and then both of the plushie quads. So we're just going to go through shade by shade, and I'll show you all the colors that I found that match the ones in the Venus Vivid palette. And of course I'm going to be swatching everything as we go and talk about it. So first of all, let's just go shade by shade. So the first one we're going to talk about is the shade Betty. It is a matte blue from the Venus Vivid palette. And this one feels very nice and soft. I'm going to go ahead and swatch this one on this side of my arm. This one doesn't swatch great. You can see it's very patchy, but that doesn't necessarily determine how it'll perform on the eyes. You might be better packing it on or using it in the crease, so that doesn't bother me right now because I still haven't tried the palette. I just got it in the mail today. The first dupe I found is in the Plushie Sweet Blends quad, and it's going to be the shade Blueberry. This is a lot more muted than the other shade, but I'm going to show you anyways. Okay, so as you can hopefully tell, this is a lot dustier, and this is like a vibrant neon blue. So that one's not quite a dupe, but it's worth looking at anyways. And the other two come from the birthday palette, which we looked at in my last Slime Crime video. And the two shades I found in here are going to be Blue Sky and Wrapped. So Blue Sky is close in color, but this is basically a pressed glitter shade. As you can see, there's not a whole lot of pigment to that, it's mostly glitter. And then finally we have Wrapped, which is much darker blue, and obviously isn't really a dupe. But, so that's got our new shade right here, Blueberry, Blue Sky, and Wrapped. So I would say those are not dupes. And then the last blue shade, let me clean my hands off really fast. The last blue shade I have from Lime Crime is going to be in the Venus 2 palette, and this is our trusty filter shade right here, which might be the closest one, but I still believe that this is quite a bit lighter in tone. So we'll swatch it right next to the new one right there. Yeah, so as you can see, that is pastel blue versus neon blue, and so on and so forth. So that's what that one looks like. Alright, our next shade that we're going to look at is this purple shade. This is Flutter right here. This is a very pink-based purple, super soft, not necessarily metallic, but kind of got a sheen to it there, as you can hopefully see, a bit reflective. So we're going to go ahead and put that right there. Now mind you, my hand is still a little bit wet from the makeup remover wipe, so that's what that looks like. It's got like a nice soft glow to it. And the shades that I found to match this one are going to be from the birthday palette, this shade Libra down here, which is also a very pink-based purple, but this is quite a bit more pink. Yeah, so you can see there's a lot more blue in Flutter, even though they are both fairly pink-based. So that one comes off very pink, so definitely not a dupe. You could even see in real life, it like barely picks it up, but this is like almost straight up pink in real life. Okay, and then from, let's use this, nope, that's not the one. From this Plushies palette, the Fresh Squeeze, we have the shade Dragon Fruit, which is again very pink based. This is a matte, this isn't a sheen shimmer shade, even more pink than the last one. Yeah, so that is very, very pink. Hopefully you can tell that. And then we have, just out of curiosity, I'm going to swatch the shade from the Venus 3 palette. This Paradise shade right here, because it looks very similar to me, but again, very pink. So this might be the most purple that Lime Crime has put out. So yes, you can see that one. This has more blue in it. Now that I'm looking at it next to all the pink shades, this is actually looking kind of blue based, which is interesting, but yes. So the comparisons, we have Flutter here, Paradise, Libra, and Dragon Fruit. Next shade we have to compare here is the shade Starburst in the middle. This is very pinky orange. This one, not gonna lie, when I was swatching it the first time, it feels a little bit stiff, but we'll never know how it performs until we try it on the eyes, so we'll give it the benefit of the doubt. And that actually doesn't apply terribly, but it does look a bit chalky, so maybe this was one that we'll need to pack on a little bit more, so let me do another swipe on that. Okay, so the pigment is buildable. That's not bad. And the ones that I found to compare for this one are going to be from the birthday palette. Let me close this up so I don't drop anything on it and ruin my shadow. It's going to be the shade RSVP up here, which is again very orange toned, practically the same tone except maybe a little bit lighter, and RSVP is extremely glittery. Okay, so similar shade. This one's a little bit more orange, less vibrant, and it's got glitter in it. So that's different. We have from the XL palette, gotta stack all my palettes out of the way. From the XL palette we have the shade Flora, which is this nice bright orange right here. Again, these oranges don't feel terribly soft. These are all very stiff shades, which is interesting, but I found that in my previous palettes they apply very well. So it's not something that I'm terribly bothered by. Okay, so you can kind of see that this Flora shade is a much more pigmented version of this shade from the new palette. So that's interesting to me because they're practically the same tone, but you can see when I swatched it how much more pigment you get out of this. So I'm wondering if this is more of a sheer formula, which I don't know if that's something you guys would be interested in, but that is what I found for that shade. For our yellow shades in here, I would like to swatch them together because they are so similar, and I know that's a complaint a lot of people have about this palette, is they're wondering why they would include both. So we're going to start with Luxe up here, which appears to be a soft, glittery shade. Okay, that's what that looks like. Sorry for my nails, by the way. I'm at my wit's end. They just keep breaking, so this is what we're left with. Okay? And then we're going to go down to Happy Place, which is not advertised as a matte yellow, but looks more matte in the pan. So when you swatch it, you can see that there's a little bit more glitter. It's kind of a chunky shade, but let's go ahead and swatch it to the right of Luxe. These do look very, very similar, and I didn't use the same finger to swatch either of them. So, I don't know. That's interesting. I don't know that that was necessary to include both. They look almost identical to me. And the only other yellow dupe I was able to find for these shades is Candles from their birthday palette, which again is more of a pressed glitter shade, and I don't use this as like a lid topper without using glitter glue or something else underneath, but that's what Candles looks like. I'm going to go ahead and swatch that to the right again. And this one's much softer, more pastel. So, Luxe on top, Happy Place, and Candles. I would say the only difference between the two from the new palette is that Luxe looks like it would look a lot better foiled, whereas I believe Happy Place would look good with the glitter glue. But I haven't tried it on my eyes yet, so I'm not sure. We'll have to test that out later. The next shade we're going to be looking at is called Limelight. This is a matte green. This one's very soft. I already like this shade. And I was able to find two possible dupes for this. That one applies very nice. See how smooth that is compared to the other two mattes we've swatched so far? That's nice. I like that. From our birthday palette, we have the shades Lime Crime and Grass. Grass is a much darker shade of green, even though it's not quite forest green. You can tell even by the swatch that this is not going to be a match for it. That's what those two look like next to one another. And then Lime Crime is practically the same shade, but it's more of a glitter shade as well. Not quite as glittery as Candles, Blue Sky, or Rose Burst, but still quite glittery. So you can see the pigment is about the same, not the same level, but the same shade, but it is mostly green glitter. Alright, and that's what that one looks like. Our next shade down here is called Super Bloom, and that is a very glittery orange shade. This orange shade is much more pink in tone, while this one is a pretty true orange, with more of a yellow tone. So that's a very foiled metallic. See the glitter in there, hopefully. And for this one I only found one dupe, but it was actually very close, so I'm interested to see what that looks like compared to it. And for that, it would be the shade 10 from the birthday palette. Just be careful with this shade, this was very pigmented. Okay, so those two don't look terribly similar. Yeah, you can see kind of the powder from that swatch. So that's next to 10. I'm actually curious now that I'm looking at it, it actually sort of looks a little bit like RSVP, so let's go ahead and swatch that one again. Right next to Super Bloom. Okay, so again, those are pretty close. I would say Super Bloom has a lot more glitter in it than 10 does, but the two are super similar, and if this was the shade you're interested in the palette for and you have the birthday palette, I would say don't get it because those two are close enough. Our last shade in this palette is called Sassy, and it is a bright, bright pink. Now, it's interesting because for this one I was so sure that I was going to find a million different dupes for it. But interestingly enough, this is a very unique pink to Lime Crime's collection, because even though they have a lot of pinks, this one isn't something that they have a lot of. This is again a matte shade. It swatched a little bit powdery or like rough, but it looks like it's coming off just fine. I want to do another swipe of this to see if it can build. So, go ahead and do that. Yeah, so again, that deposited quite a bit more pigment. Sorry, it got kind of messy. But you can see that shade is buildable, so this would be a good all over the lid shade. And the only dupes I found for this are going to be Rose Burst from the Birthday palette again, which is again a super glittery shade. But the tones are similar, so let's just go ahead and look at it. Yeah, so that's a really close match, except for Sassy is going to be completely matte, and Rose Burst is obviously a very glittery shade. And then the last one that I can compare this one to is going to be from the XL palette. And, oh my goodness, that is the shade Passion up here. This is the brightest pink in this palette, even though it's a little bit more purple toned. It's got a little bit of that violet in it. Just go ahead and look at it anyways. So yes, that's quite a bit darker. You can see the purple tones in it. It's a little bit reddish as well. Not quite strawberry pink like the Sassy shade. Yeah, and so that's the end of the swatches. So let's go ahead and get into some eye looks using this palette, because I'm very excited to try this out.